Thank you. I'm going to go ahead and get started here. Of course, I am representing Omega Psi Phi Fraternity Incorporated, the fourth district here, which is Ohio and West Virginia. And expressly tonight, for Ohio, for our region that is, it tells Dayton, Ohio, we have one and only Ms. Desiree Timms. Thank you so much. It is an honor and a pleasure to have you here. Of course, you are also a legacy, so you know you are amongst family, and we are so proud of you. Um, with no further ado, I would like for you to introduce yourself and give the rest of your Omega family an idea of who you are and what you've accomplished, please.
Awesome. Well, first, thanks so much for having me. It's always a pleasure and honor to be amongst you all. So, to start, I am from Dayton, born and raised. My day job is I run Innovation Ohio, which is a progressive think tank. I serve as president and CEO, and I'm in my fourth year in this role. That said, I'm also a candidate for the Ohio State House this cycle. I am unopposed. And with that, I'm still out doing the work and talking to people about why voting still matters, why showing up still matters, and the role of democracy and civic engagement in today's society.
Splendid, splendid. Now, realizing that you're unopposed, we would typically say, tell us why we should vote for you versus your candidate or what makes you a better choice. But I guess that it would be a waste of time to go there. So, what I want to say is when you get this position, what are the things that we can expect from you immediately and then, a little bit further down the line?
Yeah. So one of the reasons I'm running is because of my community. I am a daughter of Dayton, born and raised. I went to college at Xavier down in Cincinnati. And during that time, I met a man named Barack Obama. And at the time, Barack Obama was running for president. And I was really passionate about the things that he was talking about. And I felt like he understood the issues of Dayton and my community, of Ohio. When we talk about General Motors and all of the manufacturing job and automation that just sort of left our community and what that did to so many people in terms of job security. Homes were foreclosed, cars were repossessed, people were losing their livelihood. And life as we know it here in Ohio, it changed. People moved south, people left the state for more opportunity for different jobs. But a lot of people stayed, and even more people couldn't afford to leave. And so, what do we do about the people who are still here? And how do we attract people back into our neighborhoods, back into our communities? That looks like job opportunities, that looks like economic development, that looks like better public education. The entire reason I got involved in, politics really is about policy. I went to Dunbar High School. I graduated top of my class, but when I got to college, I struggled. It was very different. It was a very different environment. And I remember talking to my classmates then, and they said, "Oh, I've seen this material before. I learned this in middle school. I learned this in high school." And I thought, well, the only difference between your high school and your middle school and mine is it's in a different zip code, and that no child should experience that. So when I'm in the state house, what I will be fighting for is I'm going to be fighting for the people who need a voice in the halls of power. So that looks like better education. I'm supporting the Amtrak expansion across Ohio, the 3CD line that will connect Cleveland to Dayton and Columbus and Cincinnati all the way to Chicago, because I think that'll provide opportunity.
That's excellent. Additionally, we have a unique opportunity because, again, you're running unopposed. I'm sure you see the divisive ideology that's out there and the very the knowable level of conflict that's out there. But one of the things I think is very important is to stress that, before you're a Democrat or Republican, you're a person, you're a member of the community. It's not a conspiracy that you want to get things done or how you'll get things done. But also, I would ask, can you give us a little bit of insight into really what makes you ideal for this job, and some of the things that you've accomplished previously that are kind of making you well prepared for success now in the role you're going to take soon?
Yeah, thank you for that question. I'm not new to the legislative process. When I graduated college, I went to go work in the White House for President Obama. I was there at the table in the rooms hearing about the policy ideas, the opportunities that could be championed from the federal government. I worked on Capitol Hill for our Senator Sherrod Brown, and I served as president of the Senate Black Legislative Staff Caucus. So again, when we're talking about who's at the table, I can tell you there aren't a lot of Black people walking around the halls of the Senate. There aren't a lot of staffers. And so having a voice at the table that says, hey, if you pass this law, it's going to really disenfranchise this group of people, you need to take that word out. You need to remove that comma. That language can be misinterpreted. I also have a law degree from Georgetown. But I really think my experience, like being in the halls of Congress and sitting at the table and talking to people who are at the State House today, right? Our legislators and lawmakers who are there now, being an advocate, testifying and telling them, hey, this is right or this is wrong. We have to have people who understand how the process works beyond, a photo op and, a catchy ad on TV. You want somebody who's going to be there who can do the work and who is willing to do the work. And so I believe that, that person is me. And that's why I appreciate having everyone's vote. And I look forward to having more votes. And I hope more people will consider voting for me this election and in the future.
Okay, excellent. Now, of course, geographically, there's some very close proximity to Springfield. And of course, we know that they've been a victim of a smear campaign, of an incredible lie. I try not to laugh when I repeat it because it's just that crazy. But one of the things I would ask in your current role, while it's not necessarily something you're required to do, what do you think could be done to kind of bring together the community again and kind of piece it up where the politics and the atmosphere at large has kind of divided us?
So, one, I am very disheartened by what has happened in Springfield. I went to Springfield shortly after the president and our former president and our current senator, J.D. Vance, attacked the Haitian community. And I cannot articulate in words the horror I witnessed on some of our Haitian neighbors' faces. Like, I felt like I saw their hearts broken. And to invite people to a community who have helped to rebuild it, who are working and who are trying to provide a better life for themselves, to smear them and allow them to be subject to hate. One is dangerous, and it's a threat. And it's not just a danger and a threat to Haitian people, it's a threat to Black people, right? Because most people don't, I could be Haitian, you don't know, right? And so the fear that Black people of all ages, our children, school children, are feeling in the schools, is really a symptom of the hate that we're seeing online.
Exactly.
All the ugliness we're seeing. And we really have to get back to the basics of saying, hey, I'm a Democrat, you're a Republican, we both need to solve this problem. I think we should go this way, you think we should go that way. How can we meet in the middle? That's how it used to be, and that's where we have to get back to.
Yeah, and I certainly agree. One of the things I think that I found remarkable about it is that it was so outlandish and divisive and counterproductive. I felt like I was watching a movie or something cinematic, because how could you fail to miss the opportunity? That's the culture, that's the knowledge, that's the language, the diet, everything that they've brought to that community. And really it overlooks the general compassion that I've come across whenever I've bumped into members of the Haitian community that are in Springfield. I have yet to have a conversation with somebody who didn't hug me at the end of it. I've eaten a lot of fish, and I can't tell you how good a red snapper is, but thank you for that. They will always be my favorite as a result of that. And then two, it showed me how a little bit of ignorance can be such a deadly thing. It creates divides. And so when we think about the position that you'll take, even as Mr. Brown, Brother Brown, is dealing with a very divisive campaign. We see the same thing with Kamala, who recently did I would say, an unforgettable interview on Fox. You haven't been subject to that, but as you're continuing the campaign, what have you experienced, and then how are you able to deal with that in stride and take that and turn it into something positive?
Oh yeah. So let's back up. 2020, I was a candidate for Congress. I ran for U.S. Congress. I was one of the top 10 races in the country. That was also during the height of George Floyd.
Mhm.
Um, I remember I got a call. Someone shot up the office. It had my sign in the window. There was a Black Lives Matter sign in the window, and I went in their bullet holes, through the window. And I thought, one, I'm happy no one was here, no one got hurt. But
Mhm.
two, I really thought about where we are today in our politics, that someone thought it was okay to shoot through the windows of the Democratic office. Um, and I will tell you, the one person who called, there were a few people who called. The one person who called to check on me to make
Mhm.
sure that I was okay was
Mhm.
Kamala Harris. So when
Excellent.
we talk about having people in power, in positions of power, to really lean on when we go through these experiences, particularly as women, as Black women, as people of color, um, you will take, a lot of heat, unnecessary. It will be unfair. It's ugly. But I think about the heat that our ancestors took when they were marching across the bridge for voting rights, when they were trying to make sure we had an opportunity in this country to go to school. And so, I'm down for the fight. And so, in that, I'm a person who leans on my faith. And so I lean on that, and I trust that my purpose is to make sure my community is better. And so I don't let that deter me. And I also have been a regular on Fox News. I'm the Democrat going on there talking to Republicans. So I've been in Vice President Kamala Harris's shoes. And it's not, a warm and inviting crowd because it's mostly conservative. But there are a few people who reach out who says, you know what, I didn't agree with 90% of what you said, but the 10% I'm interested or I'm curious. And that's really what it's all about. It's about going into spaces where we are not comfortable to reach more people. That is the goal.
Excellent. Excellent. Thank you for that information. One of the things that I think that we should talk about, this election for president is monumental in many ways. We will see potentially the second African American president. We will see the first female president. So there's a lot of history with that. How are you dealing with our communities? Outliers, because we have people who are disenfranchised and feel that their vote does not matter, or that they cannot vote for things that simply aren't true. We've heard that Kamala locked up millions of Black people that she did. We recently heard that she's not Black, although she went to Hampton and she's AKA, she's Oakland. When you're hearing those things, how are you seeing those challenges and embracing it as a woman who could go on to be even a future president? You could ascend to that height. How do you see these things, and what is it? What are you encouraged to do, or how do you deal with that?
Look, I think, when I ran for office, when I ran for Congress, there were definitely commercials on air and people were saying, she's not from here. She didn't grow up here. She didn't go to school here. And I had classmates saying, no, I know her. We did graduate together. We did this together.
With the Dunbar.
I used to see her at the rec centers, right? And so
Mhm.
the othering is a very old tactic that goes back to, Reconstruction. So when often Black people, definitely women, and Black women, when
Mhm.
we get into different positions, people will try to other us or other you to make other people say like, they not like us, to quote Kendrick, right? Because that
Yeah.
other people are like, yeah, they're not like me. She's not from here. She didn't even go here. And people believe it. And I think that's the more hurtful part when you're like, no, you believe it. It's a lie. They make up lies and they run them on TV. But we have to make sure that our community is educated on the facts. And so people are going to hear a lot of lies on TV about Kamala Harris. They're going to see a lot and hear a lot of lies about Sherrod Brown. They're going to hear a lot of lies about Issue One, and a lot of candidates. But what I really want people to do is educate themselves on the candidate. And you would be surprised. Look up to see when the candidates are having an event near you or when there's some sort of engagement opportunity, because you can ask questions directly to them and get answers to the questions. And I think a lot of people don't realize that. Get off the internet, go in person and have a conversation because they represent you or they're trying to represent you. And so they should be open and welcome to any questions that people have.
Okay. So I can't get all of my information off of TikTok if I want to know about you.
TikTok is not the best place. Right? It's like everyone's like searching, and those are not credible sources. And that's what happened in 2016. People were believing fake news stories because anybody can create a website and call it a newspaper or call it something else. You want to look for credible outlets. You want to read newspapers that have a history, that have journalists that are, fact checking what they're publishing and putting out. But it's harder today because people don't get the newspaper delivered to their house every day. And a lot of the news is behind a paywall. So unfortunately, people aren't getting their information from Facebook and TikTok and Twitter.
Now, when we talk about the information that's out there, I want to make sure that we are very dedicated to making sure that we put factual and objective information out there. Can you tell us the things that we need to know, the truth about you, who you are as a candidate, as a person, and what you're delivered to this office?
Yeah, well, I'm about helping my community. I'm about education. I'm about transportation, economic opportunity. I don't believe in lifting yourself up by the bootstraps because somebody has to get you a pair of boots, and they ain't cheap. So we have to make sure that everybody has an opportunity to help themselves and sort of have the opportunity for self-determination. But it requires, a community. It requires investment. It requires policy change. So a lot of things are policy choices. When people say, oh, well, I don't, we have potholes on my side of the street, or the street lights don't work, or, the air outside smells terribly, or the water isn't good. Those are policy choices. Somebody is in charge of that policy. When we talk about jobs, when we talk about minimum wage, people saying, I don't make enough per hour. Well, there's a law behind what you can make per hour. Democrats have been trying to raise the wages while other people have not. So you have to think about the people who are going to vote for policies that replicate your family values. And so if you are a billionaire, I'm probably not going to have votes that, align with your values. If you are a multi-millionaire, I'm probably not going to vote for things that, give you the tax break. I want the person who's working 2 jobs to have a tax break before you get the tax break. Because you're not worried about food, water, like the basics.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I stand for. And I think people should get nonpartisan information to read about candidates and issues. My organization, Innovation Ohio, is Innovation Ohio Education Fund, is a not-for-profit. And we have a nonpartisan, meaning it's not Democrat, it's not Republican, it's basic information for all people, called the Ohio Voter Guide. If you go to ohiovoterguide.org, you can type in your address and you can find out exactly what's on your ballot, and you can read about both sides. And that's what everybody should do. Read about both sides.
Some of the hot topic issues that we're dealing with, and we've kind of touched here, I just wanted to kind of get your take on it and understand, as you go into office, it's some of the talking points that they don't concern you, but then again, they do, because if they know you're in a political office, these are the things they're bringing up. The biggest thing we've been talking about is women's rights as it relates to healthcare and immigrants and immigration, and, how we're going to approach that. What are your thoughts on those 2 hot button issues at the moment?
So Ohio voted by a very large measure to protect access to abortion and reproductive health care. Mm-hmm. That said, the fight's not over. There are still attempts to circumvent what people voted for through the legislative process and through the courts, because there are judges on the ballot as well. A lot of people don't know your judge is on the ballot, your sheriff is on the ballot. Everybody's on the ballot. You have to vote all the way down. So they're still trying to overturn the right to reproductive health care. They're still trying to pass bans. And so I will definitely be a voice against that, to make sure that, the government shouldn't be in your hospital bed with you. That's your own personal choice, your own personal decision. And a lot of women have had health issues and their fertility being risked because of these crazy ideas. There was one elected official, a white guy, who thought that, a woman's eggs, like our eggs, that you could crack them, like an egg you buy at the grocery store. And so, like, the ignorance about the female anatomy is astounding. But these people have power because somebody voted for them or somebody stayed home and allowed somebody else to vote for them. So we really have to be mindful about how power operates and our role within that operation.
Okay, excellent. Now, one of the things I'm not sure if it is a struggle for you, but I see that it is a struggle for other females and other people that we've talked to. Um, you have a prevalent an attitude that is prevailing or becoming more prevalent in the community expressly. Brothers who have a hard time getting behind a woman. Um, I know you, and I understand why I'm voting for you, and I know that it's a good idea. But for the Black male who is struggling with voting for a woman, supporting a woman, and letting a woman lead, what would you offer when confronted with that?
So I'm struggling with this narrative a little bit because I know that it exists, but Black men love Stacey Abrams. They showed up for Stacey, particularly the first time, right? And so I don't. And Black men are for the Democratic Party. There's Black women, number one, loyal, voting bloc. The number two, Black men, right? When we look at abortion issues and access in Ohio, you know who outvoted Black women in protecting abortion? It was Black men. And so I think when we are talking to some men who are like, oh, I don't think, a woman should do that. And I've had some crazy comments.
Okay.
Crazy. And, I just talk to them and say, okay, would you rather have me? Because I need you to look at me like I'm your sister, I'm your auntie, I'm your wife. I need you to see me as your daughter. I need you to see me like that. Do you want me at that table telling them what works for our community, or do you want a stranger? Do you want someone who doesn't have the experience like Kamala Harris, who's been the vice president? She's literally more qualified than Barack Obama. She has been vice president and a senator and statewide, like a lot more experience than Barack Obama, right? Would you want her in there, or do you want the guy who is selling our secrets to, foreign adversaries, who basically tried to lock up and will lock up protesters? So Black Lives Matter, the George Floyd movement, that protesting, you'll go to jail for protesting under a Donald Trump administration. Do you want that, or do you want the person? So I think we really have to make it about the policy. So you can't get over, voting for a woman for president. Then you need to think about what life would look like under a man. And, that's really, it's about the impact. And so I think making that clear about, you trust your mother to feed you, you trust your mother to cook for you, you ask your mom for money, you ask your mom to babysit,
Absolutely.
You trust your mom with this stuff. So why wouldn't you trust Kamala Harris with the country? Why wouldn't you trust a Desiree Timms with the State House? Why wouldn't you trust? And so I think we have to start making it plain about, I'm not other, because that's othering, right? I'm not othering. I'm a part of the same family. We're part of the same family. I'm not an outsider. I'm an insider.
Okay. Excellent. And finally, I would ask, what are your dreams upon, you will win. So what are the dreams, or the really lofty things, the huge things you would like to accomplish as you get in office?
Yeah, well, I will note that Democrats have, a super minority, and we are definitely outnumbered in the State House. But I'm not going to allow that to deter me. I really care about our public education system. We have to make sure that our schools are adequately funded and that resources are available, particularly wraparound services and support services for our youth. That truly matters. The second thing is I really care about economic development. And I think that in order to breathe life into a community, you have to have opportunity. People have to be able to work and support themselves with one job, not two, with one job. Right. So we have to make sure we create opportunity. And then again, I really believe in the Amtrak expansion in our community. That is going to be a priority, because I know we will have jobs that come to the Dayton area, right? But they may come out towards the airport or to Troy, or, it may be south of town. And people are like, well, I live in the city and I don't have transportation. How am I going to get there? I have the skills, but I don't have a car. Or we have one car for our family. So we really have to think about how we help people, one, get to work, and how we create the jobs for them, and the training so that they can make the money that they need to support themselves. Because I think people, I think people like money. People like to have money in their pocket, and nobody wants to struggle. And so we need to make sure we create opportunity and pathways for that to happen. So those are my legislative priorities.
Do you think you have any opportunity to maybe work with Republicans and other people who have similar goals or similar ideals and see a chance? Do you see any opportunity for, bipartisan legislature and things that you can push that'll be helpful to our community?
Absolutely. I would be remiss if I didn't say my other priority, third prong, is housing. We have a housing crisis in this state and definitely in our community. Availability and affordability, accessibility, right? And so people can't afford rent. People can't afford to take out a home loan. And the builders aren't building enough homes fast enough, enough apartment buildings fast enough. And then the ones that are, maybe built, they're inaccessible because they're far away from maybe, what childcare looks like or what school or work looks like, or again, that transportation breakdown. So housing is certainly an issue that I know a lot of different people across the aisle also care about. And so I see opportunities there to collaborate. And I'm always open to working with, Republicans and reaching across the aisle if they will work with me. But I'm just not going to compromise my values in the process of that. So if they're willing to do the work, I will meet them halfway.
Okay, excellent. And then finally, I always like to give you the floor. I always ask, one, give us the things that we'll look back on, and because this is not going anywhere. It'll be here in 10 years. Give us the things that we can look back and be like, yep, I knew she was a star, and the things that we need to remember when we're out to vote for you.
Well, I don't look at myself as a star. I look at myself as a member of the community. And so I just hope that in 10 years, people will look back and say, she fought the good fight and she was with us. And, she said what she meant and she meant what she said. And that's good enough for me because I am here because I feel like it's part of my purpose to serve my community. And I'm truly a public servant. And that's what I'm going to, roll up my sleeves and get to work doing. So what I would love is for another young person who's watching this to be ready to take the baton so that they can run with it once I'm done, so that I can pass it on. Because we want to make sure we bring more people into this space. We get more people in the halls of power because, as many of you know, it's a lot of old people. So we have to make sure we're bringing in the next generation of leaders to continue government and to continue to keep our country moving forward.
Splendid. And so I know I said it was the last question. One of the questions that I've entertained a lot from our undergraduates and our younger graduate brothers is, I want to get involved. I want to be a leader. I had somebody say to me Monday, I think I could be the president of the United States, and I don't even know where to start at. What would you say to the person who has those dreams and ambitions and yet feels they don't even know where to start at or how to get involved?
So I hear young people say this too, which I love, that they're like, I could be president one day. I'm like, great. Thankless job. I don't want it, but it's a lot of work. So one, I think you have to really think about the policy, right? Like, I'm a policy wonk. I really care about like the policies that will help people. And so when people say like, I want to be an elected official or a politician, or I'm like, well, what are the policies that you care about? Like, I care about like economic policies because I saw the economic collapse in my community, right? Okay. So all I care about is like, how do we breathe life back into Dayton so that people feel like, downtown is bustling and they have jobs and they don't have to leave to go to Dallas or Atlanta or Los Angeles for a job that pays well, right? And so like, how do we build on our strengths? Then, so one, what's your why? You got to have a why. Got to have a why, because it's too hard of a job. There are too many ugly attacks. It's too much work trying to get, people to donate $5 here or 10. I mean, it's just a lot. So the only reason that you will stay in it is because you have a why. So you have to know your why. 2, you have to volunteer. Go down to your local party office, regardless of your, political affiliation, and volunteer. Learn the process. I really believe in honing your craft, and a lot of people just want to arrive. And I know, like, people, like, I look young, but like I started doing this work in college. So I'm almost 20 years in the game of like doing this work, volunteering, um, and really learning about the process. So I think that's where you start. And then you take all of that together and think about what you want to pour back into your community. And that's when you run.
Excellent. Okay. Okay. Excellent. Now I can tell you as a financier, won't go too far into that, but definitely licensed, and I've got an extensive background in property and mortgages and things. Kind of digging deep in, how do you look to kind of incentivize or create the economic climate that would induce bringing businesses in, getting businesses up, helping businesses to kind of shore up their foundations?
So one of the legacy opportunities that we have in Ohio is we have a lot of colleges and universities, right? And
Mhm.
so most corporations, when they're looking at a couple of metrics before they decide to relocate or start a business. One, can they have the employees? Will they have the workforce? Two,
Mhm.
will that workforce have stability? Or are there enough houses and housing available? So this is like when you're thinking about like an Amazon, right? How do we attract like
Right.
a big company, right? They need to make sure their employees can, live, work, and play. And so we have to make sure we have a community that reflects those values. So we have the University of Dayton, we have Sinclair College, Central State, Wilberforce. And this is just like, my community, let
Mhm.
alone everything else around the state. So we have the workforce, we have the opportunities. I think we just have to, build a little bit more on our relationships with some companies, make sure we're giving entrepreneurs startup capital. Sometimes we don't have to look outside for investment. Sometimes the next Jeff Bezos, is in Trotwood. The next, Mark Zuckerberg is in Beaver Creek. So we have to think about what resources and tools we can provide to people here so that we have a startup culture, and not only the startup culture, but the capital to support that, and that those businesses can thrive and grow. And so growing from within, and also partnerships to attract people back into our community. So I say everywhere I go around the country, everywhere I go, somebody is from Ohio, especially Dayton. Dayton people
Yes.
Daytonians are everywhere.
Yes, they are.
Get those people to pour back into the community that they love. And so I think those are, again, policy decisions that really, have to come on the table and be choice points. And they'll take money and investment from the state and from the Fed to really, carry those ideas out.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much for your time. I'm definitely done with all of my questions. I could go on, but thank you. It's been excellent. I thank you for this opportunity. Again, brothers, especially for Ohio, this is Desiree Timms. She is a legacy. As you can see, she is very knowledgeable, very intelligent, very personable. When you are supporting her, you are supporting a legacy, and you are supporting someone who is, as I said, a true star, a friend of Omega, and someone who has done Dayton very, very, very well. So please make your best decision. We're not going to say who to vote for, but I'm going to encourage you to vote wisely. And I think we've given you enough information to do that. Thank you so much for your time this evening. Good luck with everything. You know you have friends and family in us.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.